I will call the December 9th meeting of the Verona Common Council to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll have the roll call. If you would, Ms. Schofield.
Alderperson Bear?
Here.
Alderperson Diaz?
Here.
Alderperson Doyle?
Here.
Alderperson McGilvery?
Here.
Alderperson Reekie?
Here.
Alderperson Steiner?
Here.
And Alderperson Yurs?
Here.
And Alderperson Manley is absent and excused this evening.
We have a quorum, so we will proceed with the agenda. Is there anyone next? We have, excuse me, we have public comment. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak this evening? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? Not seeing anyone jumping up to the podium. No one going to speak tonight in public comment. I will close the public comment portion. We'll move to the approval of minutes. The minutes were included with your packet from the November 25th meeting. What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Ms. Reekie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bear. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, and the minutes are approved. Under Mayor's business, just two things that I wanted to mention. On Friday evening, it was the community tree lighting and the community chili supper, which I got there a little bit late for the tree lighting. I was out of town, but did get there for the chili supper, and certainly appreciated the work that the fire department did with the chili and there were hot dogs, and there was dessert, there was ice cream by Culver's. Just another great event. I've gone I don't know how many years in a row, and we thank them for that effort. And then the second thing, and we have Mr. Reeder in the audience this evening, and I know that he always appreciates getting embarrassed when we say this, but Ron, thank you, and thank you to your staff again for the great job that you did with the snowfall that we had. And it's one of the things that we're very proud of in this city, and we keep mentioning it, but we want you to know that we don't take that lightly, so thank you very much for that. That concludes my report for this evening. I would move then to the administrator's report. Mr. Burns, please.
Yes, thank you. A couple updates this evening. First of all, we have calculated the final tax rate, and tax bills will be going in the mail likely later this week. The final tax rate for all the taxing jurisdictions is $22.81 per thousand. That's an increase in the total rate, which includes city, school district, county, MATC, and the state forestry tax. Total rate increase of 1.3%. However, it was a revaluation year, and on average, property values did go down. So for the average single-family home, according to the city assessor, they would actually expect to see a decrease of about 2.5% in their total tax bill. However, individual properties are going to be affected differently based on how their property compared to the average in the revaluation process. So tax bills are being printed and will be in the mail shortly, and tax collection will be initiating here at City Hall, excuse me. Also, I wanted to report on the hours that City Hall will be closed around the holidays. City Hall will be closed on December 24th and 25th, as well as January 1st. And City Hall will be open on New Year's Eve on the 31st, but will be closing at noon on that day. And then finally, I wanted to report that the Danecom radio program, which has been being worked on for several months, is in the process of going live. That system has gone live for the paging component, and the radio transfer over will take place sometime around or shortly after January 1st. And we have included in the bills to be paid tonight payment to Motorola for the purchase of the remaining radios that the city needs as part of that project. And with that update, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Burns? Bill, I just have one. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you know the answer, so I'll ask the question anyhow. For those people that their financial institutions pay from their escrow, pay their taxes in a situation where their taxes are less than the check that gets paid to the city, would you talk about the process for refunds, please?
Sure. If somebody is issued a check from the mortgage company or institution that's made out to the individual and to the city, that full amount needs to be deposited with the city, and then we will issue a refund check to the individual for the balance. And refunds are issued after we receive the funds in our account and have gone through the settlement process to make sure that the taxes are paid, and then we'll issue those refunds as a batch. Unfortunately, the city is not able to sign the check over to the individual. It does need to be deposited to the city if the city's name is on the check. And I should add, too, that any additional information about payments or questions will be available in an insert that will be mailed with the tax bills, and we'll also be putting that information on the city's website.
Thank you. Further questions or comments for Bill? Seeing none, thank you, Bill. We'll move on then to the engineer's report. Mr. Gunlock, please.
Thank you. I'll run through the project this evening. Locust Drive project is shut down for the winter. Asphalt surface course paving will take place in the spring. Cathedral Point, Locust Addition. The electric, telephone, and cable utilities are expected to start installation of their facilities this week as weather permits. The first two building foundations are also expected to be installed probably starting the last week of December. Scenic Ridge Phase 5, the lift station pumps and piping was installed last week. Waiting for Alliant Energy to install the underground power and electrical service, and once the lift station has been energized, the testing will be performed. Liberty Business Park, this project is also shut down for the winter. Asphalt surface course paving will take place in the spring. Northern Lights relocation. Northern Lights has been relocated and open to traffic. Some work still remains at the north and south tie-in points on Northern Lights. And Epic Systems Utilities. Epic Systems is making water main relays to prepare for the construction of the food service building. Epic is also relocating sanitary sewer in preparation of the construction of Campus 4. That takes care of the projects for this evening. I would just like to extend happy holidays to all of the council members and city staff, as we will not have another meeting this month. That concludes the report for this evening.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Gunlock? And Bob, we wish you the same. Had a long-standing relationship with you as the city's engineer, and you do a fantastic job for us. And we appreciate it year-round, but we especially appreciate it now, so thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to committee reports then. Plan Commission, Mr. Yurs, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under 9A1, I would like to make a motion to approve Ordinance 13-837, amending Section 376 of Chapter 11 of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the payment of financial obligations.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Bear. Mr. Yurs?
Thank you. The proposed zoning ordinance amendment would deem zoning applications incomplete if the person or firm applying has unpaid and overdue property taxes, special assessments, sanitary hookup fees, park fees, impact fees, building permit fees, erosion control or stormwater management fees or charges owed pursuant to an agreement, or any other fees owed to the city. The purpose of the ordinance provides a hearing and an appeal process for anyone wanting to discuss the unpaid fees. On October 14th, 2013, the Finance Committee directed staff to draft an ordinance for Verona that is similar to Sun Prairie's ordinance. The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on December 2nd, 2013, and voted to recommend the approval of the zoning ordinance amendment.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments for either staff or for the Plan Commission? Mr. Bear?
I just want to thank the staff and the Finance Committee and the Plan Commission for working on this quickly. This was an issue that came up at Plan Commission maybe 3 months ago, where one of the proposed developments had an issue with having not paid taxes, property taxes, I believe it was. And I raised the question with Mr. Burns of what could be done in that situation. He had mentioned at the meeting that there were some municipalities that do this, and that it's a fairly common practice, especially for a community that's growing quickly, that there could become a case where where we would be put into a situation where development is not current on fees or on taxes, and that development ultimately wouldn't go forward because they wouldn't get financing from a financial institution. So this is simply, I think, to protect the city, protect our staff from putting work into an issue, into a development plan, into something that's not going to ultimately move forward. So again, I thank the staff and thank the committee and the commission for working through this quickly.
Thank you for your comments, Mike. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor of ordinance, approval of ordinance 13-837, signify saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Yurs, please.
Thank you. Under 9A2, I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 13-838, creating section 91 of chapter 1 of title 14 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the payment of financial obligations.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Reekie. Mr. Yurs?
Thank you. This is much like the previous motion we just voted on. Again, it's saying if you have outstanding fees, you would have an incomplete application. The Plan Commission did hold the required public hearing and unanimously voted to recommend approval.
Thank you. Are there questions for the Plan Commission or for city staff? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of ordinance number 13-838 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Yurs, please.
Thank you. Under 9A3, I would like to make a motion to approve resolution R-13-055, approving a conditional use permit to allow for a communication tower at 451 East Verona Avenue.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second? Is there second by Ms. Reekie? Mr. Yurs?
Thank you. The proposed conditional use permit would allow for the construction of a 96-foot tall communication tower located at 451 East Verona Avenue. The applicant is proposing to remove an existing light pole and install a new light pole with antennas. Lights will be mounted at approximately 80 feet, while the antennas will be mounted between 84 to 96 feet. A lease for this site was conditionally approved by the Common Council in October of 2013, pending the approval of the conditional use permit and site plan. The Park, Forestry, and Recreation Commission discussed this tower at their November 20th meeting, and their questions have been addressed by the applicant. The Plan Commission held a required public hearing on December 2nd, 2013, and voted to recommend the approval of a conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a communication tower at 451 East Verona Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Yurs. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of resolution R-13-055 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Yurs?
Thank you. Our next agenda item from the Plan Commission is really just going to be a discussion. There is no action, and it's discussing a plan development concept plan for the Hometown Grove development located at 837 Kimball Lane. And Adam or Mr. Sayer, if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us an overview.
Sure. So this is a plan unit development request from Apex Construction, and this is step 2 of 4 in the plan unit development process. So this is the conceptual review. It's a chance for the developer to submit a proposal to the Plan Commission and Council for just discussion on it and to provide some general feedback before they really put a lot of work into the design and creation of the actual document itself. The background on this site, and it's located just south of Glacier Edge Elementary School, is that back in November of 2005, the council did approve a development plan for this site that allowed for the construction of 2 apartment buildings and 94 townhouse units. To date, both apartment buildings have been constructed, which are 48 units, along with 16 townhouse units, so 3 buildings. The rest of the site is currently vacant. In 2009 and 2010, a different developer came forward with potential amendments to the plan development. Those amendments reduced the number of townhouses and increased the number of apartments. Those were not approved by the council. In 2010, another developer came forward requesting amendments by eliminating the townhouses and replacing them with single-family duplex and triplex buildings. The Plan Commission had concerns with that in 2010, and that did not move forward as well. So tonight, the developer is requesting conceptual review of platting 37 single-family lots the relocation of an existing townhouse building, and to allow the construction of a future 4-unit townhouse building. What makes this a planned unit development is the applicant is proposing some smaller lot sizes, some reduced setbacks, and is attempting to make what's called a traditional neighborhood development or design. It's called a TND. And what a TND is, it's a more of the throwback to what was constructed in the 1920s and 1930s with smaller lots, alleyways, and attempting to create more of a walkable environment. Some examples of, excuse me, of those types of developments include Grandview Commons on the east side of Madison, Smith's Crossings in Sun Prairie, Middleton Hills in Middleton, and then Linden Park just north of Verona. And what those have done is they've created compact single-family lots, but also have created a mixed-use environment as well by creating some commercial uses, apartments, and there's a YMCA in Sun Prairie, and there's also schools nearby. While this site may not by itself lend itself to be a true TND, the components around it with the school, with the apartment buildings, with the townhouses, and obviously with the restaurant and the gas station, lends itself to that smaller environment, or the smaller lot environment, where you have that walkability, you have the place where the kids can walk to school, you have the opportunity for residents actually to walk to the shops as well, the restaurant, and obviously the gas station too. As part of this, the applicant's requesting a setback exemptions, which I'll get to in a second. The lot sizes are proposed for the alley-loaded garages, or alley-loaded lots, would be 50 feet wide, while the lots for the front-loaded garages would be 60 feet wide. For comparison purposes, the Goldenrod Circle area of the city, which is just north of this, lot sizes range between 58 and 63 feet, and lots within Hawthorne Hills, which is located west of this site, are approximately 65 feet wide. Density, the applicant is proposing less density than what was approved in 2005. In 2005, the overall area provided a density of 12.6 dwelling units per acre. The applicant is requesting to reduce that with the single-family homes, and looking at the apartments, the townhouses, and the single-family lots, the density would be 9.3 dwelling units per acre when it's said and done. So the density would be reduced. Tonight, the Public Works Committee did discuss the roadways for this project, just to provide some feedback to the applicants. The applicant is proposing 2 public streets with access off of Kimball Lane. The public street would be 52 feet wide, which is a deviation from our standard of 66 feet wide. This 52-foot wide right-of-way would have 28 feet of roadway, 6-foot terraces on each side, and 5-foot sidewalks on each side as well. Most likely, parking would be restricted to alternate side parking, even and odd, similar to the winter parking restrictions, just because of the roadway design and how smaller it is, and just to accommodate a fire truck. Architecturally, staff encourages that there would be specific language built into the GDP, step 3 of this process, for the design of the single-family homes. One thing that all TND projects have in common is high architectural standards. If you visit Smith's Crossings, if you visit Linden Park, they all have distinct architectural features with them, and that includes porches and steps, certain things that will embrace the street, but just creating a high design element to the actual project itself. So staff will encourage that and is willing to work with the applicants on establishing and creating that language for this project. For the front-loaded garage area, staff recommends also specific language for that too, and that would include capping the protrusion of the garage itself, how far the garage can stick out from the house, and also looking at how much of the front facade the garage can take up. Exemptions requested during the plan development process that the applicant has identified right now include a front setback exemption. The applicant is proposing a 10-foot setback from the front lot line for the rear loaded, the alley loaded lots, a 20-foot setback for the front loaded lots off the front. The code does require a 25-foot setback, so there would be a 5-foot and a 15-foot exemption for that. The applicant's also requesting a 6-foot side yard setback. The code requires an 8-foot setback for 2-story buildings. The applicant's also requesting a rear yard setback, proposing a 5-foot rear yard setback for alley-loaded garages, and then proposing a 10-foot setback for lots 7 through 10 and 20. The code also has a 25-foot setback, so that's one of the exemptions they've identified so far in this process. An additional exemption they've requested is an exemption to the minimum lot size in the CR district, which is 6,000 square feet. The smallest lots in this development for the alley-loaded garages would be approximately 4,000 square feet, and that would require a zoning exemption as well. The process for this, as I stated previously, we are in the conceptual review. The next step would be the general development plan. One item that we encourage the Plan Commission to talk about, and I also encourage the Plan Commission to consider, is normally we have a step 4, a PIP submittal. Since this would include 37 single-family lots, I'm not sure if the city wants 37 single-family homes to come back to the Plan Commission and Council. One of the things we did for Goldenrod Circle was the PIPs were approved during the building permit process with the building inspectors. So what I would encourage is actually building that design language into the GDP, the step 3 process, and then allowing staff and the building inspectors to review that, ensure compliance, and just approve the PIPs with the actual building permit itself. As part of this process, it will take a rezoning. It will need to be rezoned to CR, which is community residential. Right now, the property is zoned urban residential, which is our more of a multifamily district. So that will need to be included as the process. Staff feels the CR district is the best fit for this type of project. It is the district that allows the 6,000 square foot lots, which, as I said previously, the applicant's requesting an exemption from that, but it is the best fit for this type of project. A couple of comments from staff real quickly. And we've shared these with the applicant and Plan Commission as well. The reality of what's out there right now with the townhouses is the townhouse market and condo market continues to struggle. That's why nothing else has been built out there for years. It's tough to get financing for condos. Condos in general right now are just, no one's doing condos because you can't get money from. So that's the big driving force behind this right now from the developer standpoint of the project right now is stalled out because you just can't complete it. So their thought is looking at single family homes. As everyone knows, we are running out of single family lots in the city. We only have 2 active subdivisions right now with Scenic Ridge and Cathedral Point. Beyond that, there aren't many single family lots left. So this project could help fill that need of future single family lots. Architecturally, as I said previously, staff would strongly encourage some strong language within the actual GDP, identifying specific items to ensure there's a look or theme to this project. We also encourage the applicant, and they've already done this, look at the lot design of certain lots, of lots 7, 8, 13, 20, and 24, just taking a look how those lay out and how those actually function if you're going to try to put a house on those. From a setback standpoint, we encourage the applicants to look at adjusting the front yard setback to be a minimum of 15 to 20 feet. That's more consistent with our TND projects in that area. If they need to go closer than that, we could build some language actually into the GDP that would allow them to get closer than 15 or 20 feet if they're putting certain architectural features in there, such as porches, stoops, or bays. That could possibly be a trade-off as well. We could write into the GDP. I know the applicants are here tonight. I'm sure they'd be happy to add some comments as well, but with that, staff recommends that the council just review the items submitted tonight and provide feedback to the applicants.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. That was a great job on the background. And the applicants, I did talk to them before the meeting. They're certainly willing to answer any questions. They could do a formal presentation this evening if we want. I think most of the people on the council are familiar or somewhat familiar with the project because of the past presentations. But perhaps, Bruce, if you would maybe talk about some of the things that you heard a week ago and changes that you already have initiated, if you wouldn't mind.
I'm Steve Sundstrom from Apex Building Repair. We're the construction division of Apex Property Management, and we've been charged by Apex to spearhead the development project. So I think I'll let Chuck go on about the changes we've made to the plans that you've all already seen. So.
Okay. I'm Chuck Buell. I'm the lead engineer on this project. We had the opportunity to meet in front of the Plan Commission last Monday night and then Public Works Committee today. We had some very good suggestions that were made to us at the Plan Commission. to the fact that we went ahead and have actually initiated some of the changes. Met with D'Onofrio Kotke, who is our engineer, who has been with us, actually been with this project since it was first initiated in 06, 07. So they were obviously the right engineers to work with us. So we've asked them to do a couple things. One was to relook at the street design to be sure that it would handle emergency vehicles. So we're going to shape up that a little bit. They'll be working on the preliminary plat. So they'll actually be starting to stage the different sizes of lots. We have asked them to look at the specific lots that Adam has asked us to look at. We definitely want each one of these lots to be sellable, to be buildable, and if we can look at them right now and see that we can change them, we certainly are. One of the things that was brought up was that the park looked like it was fairly small. So we've initiated requests to the engineers to look at what they can do to make that a larger park. And one of the things that we're investigating is the elimination of the alleyway on that specific part next to the park and incorporate that 24 feet into those other lots, make those lots, instead of being alley fed, to be front fed, and extend the size of the park. In addition to that, we've also asked them to investigate event parking, and those are just additional 2 and 3 parking places throughout the community so that the owners of those would have some additional parking. And that's what we've pretty much done up to this point, and we'd really like to entertain any other comments that you might have and take them back and incorporate them into the project.
Thank you. Excuse me, and I apologize for calling you Bruce. I knew it was Chuck, but I'm sorry about that. Are there questions or comments from Mr. Steiner?
One concern that has arisen in my little part of the world, most of these look like one-car garages. Is that true?
No, sir. They're all 2-car garages. Every unit will be approximately 24 by 20, and those are 2-car garages. Each one of the existing townhouses that are on the property at the present time are 2-car garages. They'd be at least that size.
Well, to me, it looks like it might fit 2 small cars, which leads to the problem of a family that may have one big car, a van, and a small car for tooling around town. And I believe one of them might have to be parked outside, and which would lead them to be parked on a street, which might have a huge problem over there because the streets are too narrow.
Well, the garages that are there and the garages that would be that we've presently designed to see what would be a probable design all have 2-car garages. They're a minimum of 20 feet wide. Most 2-car garages have a 16-foot door. 20-foot wide is a smaller size, but they're 24-foot deep, so that most cars are about at the most 18 feet. So there'd be adequate space. Those are definitely 2-car garages.
Are you familiar with North Enterprise before you get to Cross Country? Near Badger Prairie Park, be the west side?
Not really, no.
Well, it comes up from the post office and then it tees with Cross Country at the Draft House. And back several years ago, we put in affordable housing, and I think the mistake we made was the size of the garages. And that has become a thorough-through and a huge problem because those people have to have one car on the road. And I'm really worried about the width of your streets. I applaud you for enlarging the park, but at a sacrifice of putting more cars in the street. And if our firemen or police or any type of public works needs to do any work there at all, there's going to be some real big concerns that are going to arise, and I just don't see how you're going to address that. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Yers, please.
Thank you. And I guess my question kind of runs along the same lines as Mr. Steiner's. And I guess this is more of a question for city staff. Where else in the city have we, shrunk streets down to this size, or are there any?
Mr. Gunlock?
The only street that has been shrunk in size is North Edge North Edge Trail. And that went, I think that's 32 feet wide.
And has the city seen any problems because of that?
Well, it's a private street. The only real problem is that snow plowing, maintenance has been an issue.
And then could someone from Public Works from their committee meeting tonight, which I was unable to attend, could you talk about the discussion you had there about these streets as well? I mean, was anything said or?
Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you. Well, I think we had a good discussion about the project in general. I think this is probably the third time that this development has come before us in different iterations, but it's always had complications because of the width of the road. In the past, that has probably been one of the things that kept the development from happening, the width of the road. I think the intention, and Mr. Reeder's here, and certainly the engineer can speak to this, the intention, or actually I would say if the development is to happen, I believe the developers agree with this, that there would have to be a either on-site or opposing parking every other day like we have currently, or it would be just one side of the road that you could park on. Even so, there could be some issues that may arise from that. And one of the points that I brought up, and I'd like to have the other committee members speak about it, but one of the points I brought up, and notwithstanding this project, I like, it has merits there, they're putting good effort in. You are setting some precedents here by doing this, and it's, in the past, I think this newer body has had concerns with precedents, and I too have concern with precedent, whether it be lot size or road width. But again, because this project has had numerous iterations, I think it's worthwhile to at least entertain this and give them direction as we move forward. It is a difficult piece of property to develop. So, for me, I guess I am supportive to the point that I know we need housing stock coming up, and we're going to need it pretty quick. I think the developer's open to have multiple builders, which is something that we don't typically see. We've got two subdivisions right now that are currently building out. And one of those you can use the builder that's there, and the other one you have a choice. And it's always good from my perspective when you have an opportunity to pick your builder. So there are trade-offs. But Ms. Reiki, I would like to hear from, and Mr. Diaz, because I don't want to speak for them on it.
Is there anything that you want to add to what Mr. McGilvray said? You don't have to respond if you don't want to. Mr. Diaz?
I'm just going to repeat a question I had to staff at the Public Works Committee. Maybe Adam or Ron can answer this, but do you guys have any concerns about the width of the street?
Mr. Gunlock?
I guess I've always supported the wider streets in the past. This is a unique site. It has been before us at least 3 or 4 times. Other communities in the area, I believe Sun Prairie and I believe the city of Madison, have gone to narrower streets in PUD locations. We have 30, 37, 38 lots in here. If they tried to park on both sides of streets, you can't do it. It's one side parking only. A vehicle is about 6.5 feet wide, so in the summertime, you're still going to have 21, 22 feet to get for vehicles to pass, so you've got plenty of room. In the wintertime, you'll lose some of that width, you still are gonna be able to get 2 vehicles past one another. Fire trucks, if they have to get the ladder truck in there and the outriggers, it'll be tight if there's cars parked all on one side of the street. I think that's one reason we, as Mr. Sayre indicated, we want to keep the building setbacks back a little farther, so that if somebody wants to park in their driveway, they can park their vehicle in the driveway and don't block the sidewalk, and they don't have to put their vehicle on the street. Granted, some people will use their garages for storage, and they'll park on the street. I mean, you can't stop that. I mean, that's what they're gonna do. These are not huge homes, and if they have a lot of if they need a lot of storage, they're gonna use half of the garage probably. And if they got 2 vehicles, one is gonna be parked on the street. About 3 years ago, AECom did a traffic analysis, comprehensive traffic plan. In that plan, we had some 28-foot streets. We basically said that in that report that the standard street could go from 36 to 34, but we also indicated that in special areas, you could go to 28 feet. This is a special area. I would not recommend this in all areas of the city, but this is a unique area. It is a PUD. If it was straight zoning, I would say no. You have to have 66-foot streets, but this is a PUD. If we can get exceptional architecture in these homes, I think you can live with a 28-foot street. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Gunlock. With that, Mr. Yers?
Thank you. And I just want to say that I agree with what Mr. McGilvery was saying. I think we do kind of go down a dangerous, no pun intended, we go down a dangerous road when we start setting precedents. And I do have some concerns, and the street size is one of them. And as Mr. McGilvery mentioned, so too is the lot sizes. I think this is a good idea, and like Mr. McGilvery, I want to have the conversation about it because we do need the housing stock. And so my question to you would be, how would the price of the homes be affected by having larger lot sizes? I mean, would it drastically move them up? I know you wouldn't be able to have all 37 that you're hoping for, but what would it do to the price? Because I know this is really targeted towards entry-level housing.
Well, right now, even if we change the makeup of the street, right now we know that we will probably not have 37 lots because of what we've already done. It'll probably be more like 35. We'll take at least 2 down, maybe 34. The cost of the development of the earthwork, the streets, the utilities and all, will probably not change very much depending on, from the number of lots that we have there. So obviously you have to displace that same cost over the number of lots you have. So yes, it'll go up. How significantly? I'm not 100% sure. I would guess $5,000 to $10,000 might be. It's probably between there someplace. Off the top of my head, I can't say exactly. Affordable housing, again, it depends. The Public Works Departments tell us that each one of these houses is going to carry an impact fee of over $5,000 a piece. That's starting out of the block before you even start. It's just the cost of doing business in Verona. That's very high. So in order to try to keep these costs where they're at, we do need to maximize the use of the road, but we're not adversely opposed to making them as buildable as we can. Like I said, we don't want to create a lot that nobody's going to buy. or somebody will put such a small house on it, it's not worth it. You've still got to create a nice neighborhood, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. Okay?
I'd like to add that D'Onofrio Kotke, who's doing the site design platting for us, is looking at if we reduce the number of lots, can we get significant savings in the utilities? And if we can make that work, we will reduce the lots. It just makes sense if we can save on sewer and streets by reducing lots, then we don't need to make money selling the lots. But that question is being looked into in the platting process.
Chief Coughlin, you had something to add, please?
I just have some issues, or ask that you give the width of the roadways some additional consideration and some additional comments to what Bob said. When he said that vehicles are 6 to 6.5 feet wide, we kind of measure them in general rule of thumb about 8 feet to take into account mirrors and distance in which they park from the curb. Seldom, if ever, will you come into any subdivision where you see 2 cars parked up tight to the curb. It just doesn't happen. So with a 28-foot roadway and 2 vehicles, or vehicles on both sides, that taking up 16 feet, it leaves you 12 to maneuver. You can restrict parking to one side. You can set any rules you want in place. You cannot guarantee and you cannot ensure that there will be parking on one side of the street. It doesn't happen on any of our streets 24/7. It's impossible to do so. I just ask you to stop and pause, think about that issue. The few areas where we've had reduced streets with and private drives or streets within our community have been problems that the police department gets to deal with. The decisions are made, plans are approved, locations are built, most people depart, we don't get to leave. Expectations of what some community members have as to what we can do and what we can't do sometimes vary in great detail. I'll use Goldenrod as an example. Their streets, I believe, are reduced a little bit in width, as well as they're private. Very problematic for us because you have arguments or complaints that arise and individuals say, well, if you would have read the fine print in the covenants, you would have known better. The reality is not everybody does. So you have residents there that are extremely unhappy. They can't, we can't enforce parking there in private drives or streets. We have no authority to do so. 2 people get into arguments, 2 adults begin acting like kids, and you have people parking on both sides of the street, and you have a fire hydrant on the other end, and if you do have a fire down there, I say good luck to try to get there. One could say, well, you can tow them, you can ticket them, you can move them. You sure can, but it takes time. So your emergency has already come and gone. I don't have a vested interest in much of what you discussed from a plan development standpoint, but narrowing the roadways to make a project work, I ask you to give that a lot more thought than a developer or a plan has come before you several times. To me, that really doesn't have much of a bearing. You can bring it to me 100 times. If it's not right, it's not right. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Additional comments, questions? Sorry, Adam, Mr. Sarah?
Just one thing to point out with this project and the roads, and regardless of what happens here tonight, you still have a planned unit development for those townhouses out there. So, you know, if it moves forward with 52-foot wide roadways, the original plan, 2005, I believe, had all private drives in there. So that project is still approved. So it's one. So not to say we've already kind of gone there once in this area. We kind of have. We have a project out there right now that does have. I think every road in there is private, and it's significantly reduced than what we have right now. So just, you know, we may have to cross this bridge no matter what, because there is an approved plan out there right now. So if this change doesn't happen, they could still come forward with the other 90 or 80 some townhouse units and continue building out there as well. So either way, we're going to probably have some smaller roads out there too.
Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you. And while I appreciate the sentiment, of what you're saying. The reality of it is that's probably not going to happen. Market's not going to allow that to happen. So it's at least, I think it's at least worthy that the chief is saying it, that we take that into consideration moving forward. I don't think we're going to see them build 90 townhouses out there. A question for Mr. Reeder, which probably we could have discussed this at a committee level, but I believe there's a 6-foot, we have a 6-foot easement there, or terrace. And I know that is what we do in the city, and I agree with that, but is there potential to lose terrace and create some more width within the road? I mean, I know we're doing setback exemptions, which, again, we could talk all night about doing the exemptions all the time, but I wonder if we could just discuss that a little bit about the terrace.
Ron, if you'd come to the podium, please.
Typically, our terrace is 8 foot in width, Mick. And the struggles we have is by reducing that terrace, say, down to 5 feet or 4 feet. It's certainly provides a struggle during winter maintenance. You just, if you were to do that, and this isn't, I'm not suggesting this is the end of the world. I would guess if you have a 4-foot terrace in there, get your street width wider, what you would end up doing is probably hauling snow in that area a couple times a year. And like I said, with the equipment we have, that isn't a huge task, but I think you would end up doing that. Certainly, in the last couple of years, in some of the major snow events we had, we ended up blowing snow away from people's mailboxes and mailboxes because we couldn't push the snow back far enough without busting off all the mailboxes. So if you think about, I guess what I'm saying is, if you think about narrowing up that terrace to say 4 feet or 5 feet, I would guess probably once or twice a year you're going to end up hauling snow out there.
Thank you, Ron. Other questions or comments? Any other feedback? Mr. McGilvery?
Just because I've been part of that conversation the 3 or 4 times, this is exactly the conversation that always stalled the project in the past, and I think they're all valid points. So developers looking for feedback, I mean, that's that would be my feedback to you. In this configuration, it seems like that's what always stalls it out. So, and I don't think they're questions with easy answers, and that's certainly not irrelevant, the things that have been brought up by the chief or Mr. Ures or anybody else who spoke about it. But again, I do like the idea, and I do like the intent to create a nice, I mean, the architectural components that they're talking about doing, I think would certainly lend to a nice real estate product for the city. Although, 225 and 240, man, that's an expensive starter house.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ricky?
I don't know if I should just get all my comments out right now or just the parking issue, but I am very much in support of this kind of development. I think we need more of this type of housing stock, especially in my neighborhood, Hawthorne Hills. I think there are a lot of people that I've come across who want to move into my neighborhood and can't because there's no lots available and there's no houses being sold. And so I am very much in support of this development idea. I think the street is not a thoroughfare, and so I'm wondering if that will help with the parking issue. And it was pointed out in the Public Works meeting at some point that alternate side parking year-round would be the most preferable, but I'm wondering if it might be easier for people to remember which side of the street to always park on if it was just one side of the street parking year-round. And wondering too if the event parking could be used as resident parking also. just brainstorming here about that. And also, how much more road width would you need in order to park on both sides and have emergency vehicles be able to get through? Is it 6 feet?
Mr. Gunlock?
If you had a 32-foot street, take 8 away, you get 16. A fire truck can get through with 16 feet, but if you've got the ladder truck and he tries to put, if you got somebody parked on both sides and he tries to put his outriggers out, you're not going to be able to get the outriggers out to support the ladder. So it really comes down to, I think, with some modifications, you could maybe get a 32-foot street in there. If instead of having a 1-foot setback behind the sidewalk, you went to a 1/2 foot, and you took 1.5 feet, I mean, you would end up with, you would need 55 feet of right-of-way. You need another 3 foot of right-of-way. And if you're taking one alley out, you may be able to shift things around a little bit and get it. I guess the question is, could the chief live with the loop street being 32 feet and the little short street that goes in between being 28? Better. You know? I mean, in the city of Madison, there are a lot of streets in the new subdivisions that are only 32 feet wide. And there are other areas in Madison where they're building 28-foot streets. In these traditional neighborhood developments, they're only building 28-foot streets. So, you know, and the fire department in Madison has indicated, yeah, it's a problem. It can be a problem, but, so, granted, I have always supported the 36-foot street on a 66-foot right-of-way. But this is, yeah.
And I've
In the
been in all
past,
those meetings where
yeah.
he's been in support of that.
But we do have an area here that is unique, and if the council says it's gonna be a 36-foot street, so be it. I mean, that's fine with me, but I'm just trying to come up with some ways that, and I think with some modifications, you could get a 55-foot right-of-way in there on at least a loop street and a 32-foot street.
Thank you, Mr. Gunlock. Ms. Ricky?
I think I heard Mr. Reeder say that it would be possible for the snow to be removed if need be, and that his staff would be willing to do that. Did I interpret that correctly? If that were to arise, if the terraces were made smaller, it would be possible still to do adequate snow removal from the area. So I wonder if making the terraces narrower in combination possibly with eliminating one of the alleys, if, like Mr. Gunlock said, if that would make enough room to widen the streets and make it safer. So I'm just wondering if you could
This
plan
is
on-
certainly food for thought, and we'll definitely investigate this. You know, we know that as concerned as it is, we'll look at this portion of the project to see if there can't be something that we can do about it.
Our wheels are turning.
How often, and I don't know this, how often does a ladder truck get used to put out a single-family home fire?
I don't speak necessarily for the fire department, but I'll speak for public safety in general, and my response to that question is, it only takes one time. And if it's your house or their house, they only want to know the number one. They don't care how often it gets used.
Just one addition, if I could. Bill, did you have something?
Oh, go ahead.
Just, I think of one of the bad snowstorms we had a couple years ago where Mr. Reader, if I remember correctly, because our staff, when you have a busy snowfall, it's not snowing just in one part of the city, it's snowing all over the city. And I remember a phone call from you talking about whether or not we could hire some private individuals to come in and help clean the sidewalks because it was such an issue. So I think we have to keep in mind too that if we're putting additional work onto our staff over and beyond what they normally do, there's additional costs that occur because of that. Either it could be an overtime cost or it could be in hiring the private sector to come in and deal with it for us. Mr. Diaz? I'm sorry, Mr. Burns, if you would go first, please.
Yeah, just on that point, I did want to point out that there are costs associated with that if that involves additional staff time related to snow removal. And I think that there are some issues to work out here. It sounds like the applicant is willing to work with staff on that, and I think that the staff from various departments can look at this, kind of weigh the pros and cons, and that can be taken as part of the consideration. So, at least my suggestion was I think we've heard that this is an area of concern, and I think that rather than trying to come to a solution tonight, that we can do some additional research on this and bring some recommendations before this would come back again.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Diaz?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, in general, I'm supportive of this project. I like the design. I like what you're trying to do. And just looking and hearing about some of the history tonight, I think it's a tough area to develop, and I appreciate you guys taking on the challenge. I think we need more housing stock in Verona, so that's good. Although I agree with some of the other comments that $240,000 seems like a lot for an entry-level home. I guess the only other thing I'd like to add is that I hope that in any way you can address the police chief's concerns, whether it's better or best. Better obviously might be the compromise position, but I think this is a really good project, and I wouldn't want to see it fall apart because concerns weren't addressed. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Years?
I would also just like to add from the Plan Commission meeting that, the vast majority of us thought it was a good idea, much like we've been saying tonight, but also for the fact that you've taken away some of the density and that it's more family-owned homes. And that was one comment that I would like to just put out there from the Plan Commission, that's probably the spot that got the most support, was on that fact. And I hope that we can work through these struggles with the streets and those things, because I do think it does add a lot to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Years. I'm not seeing any other hands, so we will go on. Thank you very much. We look forward to continuing to hear from you.
Thanks.
Next, we will, anything else from Plan Commission?
Nothing further.
Thank you. We will move then to the Finance Committee. Mr. McGilvray, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9B1, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the monthly bills in the amount of $597,489.73.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Doyle. Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you. In the way of explanation, three of the larger items from tonight's bills, first being the Madison Met Sewage District in the amount of $34,403.98. Second being to Soils and Engineering Services, Inc. for soil and asphalt and concrete testing throughout the city, most of which is passed through to the developers, or TIF. That amount is $14,697.35. And lastly, to the town of Verona for the town share of fire apparatus for the capital, the purchase of capital for the fire district. That amount is $130,392 even.
Thank you, Mr. McGilvray. Are there any questions for the Finance Committee or for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor of the approval of bills signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries and the bills are paid. Is there anything else from the Finance Committee?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. And then we'll move on to Public Works, Sewer and Water. Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you. Under item 9C1, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 for the Lincoln Street culvert replacement and channel modification in the amount of $20,281.46.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Diaz. Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you. For these change orders, I'll just be reading from the administrator's memo. I know you all have it, but this would be for the benefit of the people watching. The reason for the change order is for additional work authorized by the Director of Public Works. The work included the following: clearing of an additional 375 feet of ditch, removal of an existing pedestrian bridge, which will be put back in place next year, the concrete abutments for that bridge, removal and restorations to an existing bike path, extending the bike path to Lincoln Street, and undercutting of unsuitable soil and water main modification due to field conditions. As I stated, the result of the change order number 1 is an addition to the contract in the amount of $20,281.46. This brings the total contract price to $250,173.31.
You've heard the explanation from Mr. McGilvery. Are there any questions for staff, for staff, and or the Public Works Director? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. McGilvery?
Thank you. Under item 9C2, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 2 for the Lincoln Street culvert replacement and channel modifications in the amount of $4,067.29.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvery. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Diaz. Mr. McGilvery?
Thank you. Change order number 2 is an administrative change order to reconcile bid quantities with as-constructed quantities and costs associated with the Lincoln Street culvert replacement and channel modifications project. As stated, the result of the change order number 2 is an addition to the contract in the amount of $4,067.29. This brings the total contract price to $254,240.60. This is also a closeout amount for the project.
You've heard the explanation again. Are there any questions for the committee or for the Public Works Director? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. McGilvery?
I would like to say that there will be a continuation of this project next year during the building cycle, and then, as you all know, that was part of our 2014 budget. Under item 9C3, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 2 for the Liberty Business Park Street and utility construction.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvery. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Reekie. Mr. McGilvery?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a $7,100 deduct. Change order number 3 for Liberty Business Park Street and utility construction. The reason for this change order is that as part of the Dane County Highway permit, Dane County required that the existing bypass lane be milled to a 2-inch depth prior to paving the new right turn lane. In addition, they required the installation of additional paving markings on the right turn lane consisting of 4 words and 6 arrows. Also, an additional mobilization charge resulted from the pavement markings for County Highway M. The result of the change order number 3 is in addition to the contract the amount of $3,836. Oops, got that one wrong. I got a head on that one, people. So if you can keep that in mind for the next one, I won't read that one again. Let's go back to change order number 2, which we have 2 of tonight. This is change order number 2 for the Liberty Business Park. The reason for this change order is that rock was encountered in the sanitary sewer trench that needed to be removed, and there was not a rock removal bid item. A price was negotiated for 25 cubic yards at $80 per cubic yard for a total cost of $2,000. The second item of the change order is that the asphaltic concrete millings became available from County Highway PV reconstruction project, and the contractor offered a credit for the use of the millings in lieu of crushed aggregate base course, which resulted in a credit in the amount of $9,100. The net result of the change order number 2 is a deduction to the contract in the amount of $7,100. This brings the total contract price to $1,062,454.50.
You've heard the explanation. Are there any questions for the committee or for city staff? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Mr. McGilvery?
Thank you. Under item 9B4, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 3 for Liberty Business Park Street and utility construction.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvery. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Diaz. Mr. McGilvery?
Thank you. The addition of the $3,836.15 as described previously brings the total contract price to $1,066,290.65.
Again, you've heard the explanation. Are there any questions for the committee or for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you. Under item 9B5, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 4 for Liberty Business Park Street and utility construction in the amount of $1,395.60.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Diaz. Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you. The reason for this change order is that the city requires part of erosion control, required more erosion control to protect the area over the winter. City requested that silt fence be installed. Original bid did not have silt fence quantity as part of the package. During time landscaping was to be performed, it was determined that some additional site grading needed to be performed also. Contractor was instructed by the city to perform this work for an extra. It was also determined during the landscaping that Alliant Energy was going to disturb some of the proposed landscaped area. As such, the city directed the contractor to not landscape an area west of Liberty Drive and received a credit. The result of the change order is number 4 is an addition to the contract in the amount of $1,395.60. This brings the total contract price to $1,067,686.25.
You've heard the explanation from Mr. McGilvray. Are there questions for the committee or for city staff? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. McGilvray, is there anything else from Public Works, Sewer, and Water?
I would like to say that at the committee level, we did discuss the potential for some additional work out at Liberty Park as it relates to this contract, but it's worth noting that the original contract amount, I believe, is the original estimated amount was about $2.1 million. So we are well under what Mr. Reeder and Mr. Gundlach came up with for an estimate for bids.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to new business, and we have approval of operator licenses this evening. Ms. Schofield, please.
Tonight we have 2 operator licenses from Kenneth Bice at Edelweiss Cheese and Rebecca Nanya at Cahoots.
Is there a motion to approve the operators licenses?
Move to approve the
We have a
licenses.
motion by Mr. Bear. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Yers. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. And then we have discussion and possible action regarding appointment of election inspectors for the 2014-2015 election term. Ms. Schofield?
Election inspectors are appointed for 2-year terms, beginning in even years, going through odd-numbered years, and we are up to reappoint some of our existing election workers for the next term, as well as some new workers that were submitted from a list received from the Republican Party of Dane County.
And the list is included with our packets, correct?
Correct.
Are there any motions at this time?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Reekie. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion carries. We are down to announcements. Do we have any announcements this evening? Mr. Steiner, please.
Thanks, Mayor. There'll be no senior commission meeting tomorrow night. We canceled it. The Verona Historical Society will be meeting December 18, 3 p.m. at the Senior Center to continue our presentations on local schools, especially the old country schools. Joe Winnicky did an awesome job a month ago, and he has set the bar very high for the person presenting this month. And then on the 30th of December at the Senior Center, starting at 11:45, we will have a very big shindig for a very important person. Our director of our Senior Center is retiring. And we would invite everyone to come and have lunch with her at 11:45, and they will play some music for those of you who like to dance or just sit and tap your foot, whatever you wish to do. And then we've ordered a very big cake to honor her for her 20 years of service to this city and to our aged community especially. But some of us who don't think we're aged still enjoy the place too. So come and join and help us send her off into retirement December 30, 11:45 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Other announcements this evening? Seeing no other announcements, we said it before, but happy holidays, happy New Year's to everyone. Stay warm, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you all next year. Thank you, everyone. With that, we have a motion to adjourn would be in order. We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Diaz. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.